Good evening, Ground Zero. Good evening, Diaspora. Good afternoon, good morning, wherever you may be. This is Dr. Nyi, the Vice President of the Ambazonian Governing Council. I will be talking to you today on the current situation within which our War of Independence is based. I'll be starting in a few minutes' time, in about 2 minutes, please. Share so that more comrades can come on board. So we diagnose the current state of our revolution and present to you the AGOVC ADF way forward as usual, so that we can take this war to its final end and kick Cameroon out of Ambazonia. All right, we will start with the national anthem of Ambazonia, please. Thank you, fellow countrymen. You're welcome to this presentation that looks at where we are coming from, where we are, and where we are going to. But before we begin, I would like that we take a minute of silence for our fallen heroes so far, especially the boy we lost today in Meza. May the souls of our brave warrior rest in perfect peace. You fought a good fight, brave warriors. You fought a good fight, General Ivo. You fought a good fight in Jinyam. You've all laid down your lives so that the future generation can have a better place than you had before. We will not stop until that freedom comes. Rest assured that we will pursue the enemy until the last vestiges of Cameroon leave Ambazonia. We will do that with the same tenacity that you've let your life down for. We will make sure that any obstacles, any infiltrators, any collaborators are brought to book. Amen. Fellow countrymen, we are at a critical moment within the Ambazonian War of Independence. Never before have the stakes been so high. For the last 58 years, Cameroon has occupied Ambazonia. Cameroon has ruled Ambazonia with impunity. But over the last 4 years, we have shown Cameroon who rules Ambazonia. For me to go in more detail about this, I would like to draw your attention to I will talk a little bit brief where we are coming as a people and our right to a sovereign as an indigenous people. I'll also tell you the stage at which we are with revolution. And then, as usual, I will lay down the triad approach that we'll be pursuing to make sure that we get to Bongo Square as a people. So now, when the teachers, when the lawyers reignited a revolution in 2016, it was a continuation of what the SENC, of what Fon Georgian Dinka and the rest done in the last 20 to 30 years. When that came into motion, the Ambazonian Governing Council and the ADF established a roadmap based on in-depth study of the Ambazonian people, of the occupying force, of the international system, and of other revolutions, as well as the resources and what it takes for us to achieve independence. That was carefully explained to you by Dr. Cho Ayaba, your revolutionary leader. We did so because we knew the world functions. Human being functions on systems. We did so because we knew that in order to win this war and not to be trapped in the difficulties that other attempts have faced, we needed to be meticulous. We needed strong institutions. We needed strong people. We needed an impeccable strategy that was not only dynamic, but it was focused on the enemy by bringing our people together, supported by a ground force, supported by internationalization and community mobilization, and targeted diplomacy. The leader of the revolution explained this to you. We set in this strategy that with community mobilization in order to Cameroon, we were going to mobilize our people, mobilize the international community, identify ourselves as Ambazonian, but also defeat the narrative that Cameroon supported for the last 38 years, that it was an internal issue. Thanks to all the warriors, thanks to all the activists on social media, thanks even to the actions of our defense forces, we attain internationalization. Nowadays, Cameroon knows, the international community understands and they recognized our problems, our war of independence, as an international crisis. We also said at the beginning that in order to defeat an entrenched occupier, you needed to increase the cost of occupation. You needed to make the land ungovernable. You needed to make it so difficult for the enemy to move within the territory. Through the work of our defense boys and girls on the National Army, the Ambazonian Defense Forces, they increased the cost of occupation. We also said increasing the cost of occupation alone, community and alone, independent, engage in targeted diplomacy, crisscross the globe from north to south, move to corridors of power. When we will release those photos at the appropriate time, combined with the achievement we've made so far, we said that was a package that could carry Ambazonia to the finish line. But now, that has been so good. And the idea was, in order to build the self-defense and in order to build internationalization and targeted those structures and systems, one, you put in place the Ambazonian Defense Forces. You put in place the Ambazonian Governing Council. So how was Ambazonian Forces established? We knew for people to fight for their freedom, they needed to have the knowledge of their identity. They needed to be aware of why the fight and how the fight. So the ADF was created based on valiant identity, based on the identity of Ambazonia and the notion that we fight as a people, and DG was carried with its instruments of implementation down to the creeks. The efforts of Comrade Kavi, the efforts of the defense chair, the efforts of our brothers, the bravest of commanders you can imagine of, Benji, that were betrayed, made sure that our boys were trained in war tactics, in the ideologies, the code of conduct, the Geneva Convention, in the creek, moved to the first camp in Dadi. Kavi will spend over 2 years down there and other defense staff training our boys on how to fight the war. We knew if you didn't put in place these type of structures that were like a conveyor belt that would produce the requisite mindset, the bravery, the stamina, the dedication in the boys and girls to fight for their freedom, we weren't going to attain our objectives. Within the year and a half years that Kavi was down and the defense personnel, time and again, we made sure we trained over 7,000 boys and girls. And they were dispersed in the territory following the block by block approach. Because we knew through the block by block approach, if we spread the enemy and thin, you were going to make inroads with a conventional army that's so entrenched in our territory. We knew that when they were inserted on the ground, they would fight on their own block, defend their block, and we will move as a people. They will form the basis of the new state to emerge. The boys went on the ground, did what was told to do. They had commendable bravery. Some of them were betrayed, which I'll come to, not now. That notwithstanding, we humbled the enemy. We defeated the invincibility of the bee. Now on the ground, in terms of self-defense, we are at a level field. Cameroon troops cannot move freely in Ambazonia, thanks to the General Efang, thanks to General Capo in Bui, thanks to Commander Carrot, thanks to the Alabukam Brigade, thanks to the Manu Brigade, thanks to the Fa Brigade. All this was laid in place by our departed General, General Ivo, that was betrayed. I'll come to that. These are the ingredients of success that were carefully planted, meticulously engineered in order to attain not only independence for Ambazonia, but to lay a groundwork, the foundation for a national army that would defend the territorial integrity and space of the new nation. They have done wonderfully well. They have beaten Cameroon to what we call in a football game a draw match. Cameroon is unable to make inroads on the crossroads. Cameroon unable to defeat the Ambazonian defense and the Ambazonian defense forces on the ground, has removed its triumph card, infiltrators and enablers. But also, before I come to that, when we knew the Ambazonian defense forces were running so well on the ground and the Defense Council, we knew that for a revolution, for every nation, for every system, as I said, you needed leadership and structures. So we began to focus our attention in building the strong institutions, the processes and the structures that enable AGOFC to produce revolutionary thinkers, to produce leaders that would drive the liberation war to its conclusion, whether the pioneers are there or not. We also embarked upon establishing a conveyor belt of right-thinking individuals, of leaders that held the ideology of total independence, that held the ideology of kicking Cameroon out of Ambazonia high in their spirit. Today, we can boast of that conveyor belt, that no matter what, with the Ambazonian Defense Council on the ground, with the Ambazonian Defense Council in the diaspora, with the ADF on the ground, and the defense as well, it would take Cameroon and its infiltrators more than 100 years to dislodge the ADF family. When we build these institutions, it allows us to focus on the policies that would move the revolution forward. But just as we had in the brave boys and girls, the territorial integrity of Ambazonia, the notion of moving together as people, that they would treat civilians with care, that they will look at other defense forces and other people fighting for the same cause as sisters. And while we allowed other Ambazonians, or people who claim to be Ambazonians, to purposefully follow our strategy and sometimes copy better quiz, or sometimes brought in duplicate, we knew that we're fighting for the same outcome. But little did we know that in the long run, people we thought were just enablers were actually infiltrators and collaborators of the impunity with which Cameroon is prosecuting the war in Oceania. Little do we know we're going to facilitate Cameroon's occupation of Ambazonia. To take you back to how they've done this, so that you understand the dynamics and the situation in which we find ourselves, that we are why Cameroon cannot beat the Ambazonian forces and its people on the ground, why Cameroon cannot beat the Ambazonian Governing Council in the diaspora and in the international realm. Cameroon has solicited, Cameroon has Joker card. It has played the same books that they did with Foncha in the 1990s. The same book that they did with the Fonchas in the 2000s. They have recruited some individuals within our struggle. I know most often than not, I haven't spoken. Most often, to keep the integrity of the revolution, we have refused to call out names. Fellow countrymen and women, evil has triumphed because the wise have refused to muddle with evil. Because the wise have thought that if they speak only the truth, it's a matter of time evil will disappear. No. This is the time you have to talk and speak the truth. This is the time you have to call out evil. It has been a policy within the Ambazonian Governing Council never to call out any leaders, never to call out any individuals. But at this juncture, and because we do nothing, evil would continue to manifest itself. Evil would have a field day. It is in this regard that where we find ourselves now, it is by design. Where Amazonian War of Independence on ground zero and in the diaspora is anchored now, is by design by the enemy and collaborators. We have seen over the number of years since this War of Independence started in 2016 that individuals led by Sako and Chris Anu, following the axis that collaborates with, have put in place initiatives, mechanisms, actions that have led to the death of Ambazonian fighters, that has led to the bleeding of women and children, that has led to continuous suffering, and it has also allowed Cameroon to claim authority and governance over Ambazonia. Why I enumerate these points is for you Ambazonians to make a judgment and take a stand from today that if you allow evil and you don't call evil out, or those perpetrating evil, it's only a matter of time before it consumes you. I said to myself, and I rarely come out, that I was never going to talk about anyone that was fighting for the total independence of the Amazonian people and our birth land. But the action of these leaders, led by Chris, have made me to come out, and I call on you all to take a stand today, to make sure that all out evil, name and name, make sure you go against them with all your might. After all, the Ambazonia rating is not so much about us. We are fine. It's about our children. It's about the children. It's about you in your retirement, in your dying, and said, had the opportunity and you did something. It's about you to say, when the time came, you up for Ambazonia. Just to recall a few actions that cabal of traitors, Chris and Tulonge, SDF axis, supported Cameroon and the Swiss HD, have perpetrated on our people. In 2018, Chris called Nigeria military on the bravest of fighter Calabar 9, the Benji, the Zip, because as a virtual god, they had authority over the virtual space and Ambazonia. What this happened it had an effect that slowed down the revolution. But as if that's not enough, they collaborated to make sure that these fighters were sent to the dungeons of Cameroon. Even though in the dungeons, their tenacity, their bravery has been nothing short of what you require of a brave soldier. So I thank you all, the Calabar, the Sisiko, the Tassa, that are defending the flag even in jail. They did this there in order to show their contempt for what we fight. They attacked forces on. They attacked General Aroke, imprisoned him, told us boldly in our faces it was good until the war was over. The Dracora man, to today, we don't know his whereabouts. They have attacked forces in the southern and the northern zone relentlessly. And what has happened is that confusion, division, and certain like Fako and Meme, but we are in Fako and Meme. If that was not enough, they attacked our people, the Ambazonian population, women and children and grandfathers. They took ransom from them. They kidnapped them and took ransom. They bought fighters that they did not train. They were unable to supply them materials. And these fighters, women and children, were dying under the suffocation of the occupiers' military. Why this narrative is to bring to you people the kind of evil that is out there that is going away. It's not going to go. As I said, evil has triumphed because the wise and the good have refused to call out evil and traitors of evil. It is time for Ambazonians to identify evil, them out, and take out of this Ambazonian war of independence. If that was not enough, money raised in Ambazonians out of the sweat in the diaspora on ground zero contributed 2 million. And the pastors that even under the colonial educational system couldn't make a living for themselves came to abroad where opportunities are abound. They have no achievement to show for. When lions are led by a sheep, they are going nowhere. But if a sheep or a flock of sheep is led by a lion, they will make strides. They took the 2 million, embezzled the money, used it to buy fighters, didn't provide the fighters with the required materials, used some to pay their rents. And what was the effect of that? It weakens the fighters. It gave Cameroon the upper hand in some areas. They killed some of the fighters because of lack of material and because of lack of training. And fighters were now more focused on making money rather than fighting for Ambazonia. If that did not end, are numerous. They duplicate, they copy, they destroy. Whether it's defense, if it's block by block, they create county by county. And in the counties, you have CPDM bigwigs, SDF bigwigs, and spoilers and spies in the same mix, where they intoxicate our people. They intoxicate us, supported by Atanganji, in order to take ransom. In that way, they destroy and decimate us. This is symptomatic of the same strategies that they use. This is symptomatic of the same strategies Munzu. Because with that, they were promised ministerial post in new decentralized Cameroon. If you think evil is going away, they didn't stop there. They went as ahead as to commit the greatest shit in history, impeaching Ambazonian prisoners, impeaching Siseko Ayub Tabi's cabinet. That has never happened in any war of independence or in any modern country. You impeach prisoners in the dungeon of your own enemy. These are people working for themselves. These are people that know achievement. These are people that haven't done nothing for themselves. Never mind for Ambazonia. Ambazonians, look at the integrity of your leaders. Look at the strategies of your leaders. Look at the actions of your leaders, past, present, and anticipate the future before you align behind them. When we made strides in the diplomatic front, for example, we got admitted in OMPO. They engineered AIM to write to OMPO that they are the true representative of the people. That didn't work. And that was not enough. Couldn't break the spirit of the Ambazonian people. They couldn't stop the revolution to give Cameroon the upper hand Cameroon deserved, because Cameroon had implanted them within the revolution to do. They went ahead and released names of fighters and their camps. I am not just talking from an abstract perspective. All the videos and the evidence are out there. You know it. What happened? Cameroon moved to those camps. Cameroon pinpointed fighters, numbers, to decimate them. Are people fighting for your liberation? Are these enabling occupation? I think the latter is true. We couldn't do anything. They did what Hammurabi left undone. They engineered and masterminded tribalism that led to the death of General Ivos and many fighters on the ground. They back the northwest southwest divide, the Banwa Bamiliki Banwa Kambe Banwa Bakosi. They said a southwesterner cannot fight in the west and northwesterner cannot fight in the southwest. They preach hate, they lied. And what do we have today? Field Marshal hand into the deepest of the forest. FACO is slowly coming back to normal. Is slowly coming back to normal. We have rearmed FACO, we have rearmed Meme, we have rearmed Manu, the birthplace of the Ambazonian forces, and that will remain so. Said, yes, these gangs of thieves can do no more. They send money to young men in FACO. These are young men that were ready to defend FACO. They send them money to lay down their arms and surrender to Cameroon. They send money fighters to quit the war of independence and run to Nigeria. And from there, they link them up with the HD, with the French Secret and Cameroon Secret Service. And we now see them in Yaoundé, sometimes leading forces to come at the ADF. We have bad news for you. Any civilian that is engineered, instrumentalized by the Sako and Anu or the pastor government to come and attack the ADF, we will hunt you down. If possible, we will hang your head on the market square. The Ambazonia Defense Forces camp are no-go zone. So where are we? We are at this juncture because all these machinations. We are at this juncture because these individuals have made it that your independent compromise, and at the last stage, they will have their post and you will accept decentralization. They have attacked the Defense Forces, the National Army, on numerous fronts. When General Efang led his troops to Bui, they took 23 boys, brave soldiers, and asked money from Cameroon. And we have the oath and the evidence, and handed these boys to Cameroon. And came and confessed they don't know what Cameroon has done with the boys. They use Ambazonians within the territory to fight other Ambazonians and then turn around and lead or expose those Ambazonians to brutality, killing. The examples of Chacha, Amigo, and the rest is well documented. Why I have gone in order to enumerate all circumstances is to awaken your understanding, is to awaken your spirit that there is evil planted by Cameroon, planted by the French HD Axis. They have played this game before in the 60s, in the early 2000s, and they are playing it now. It's for you to understand the intricacies and make the right choice. But I have faith, I'm confident of Ambazonians. For 58 years, when Cameroon by 2012 through a league memo that the Ambazonians could never write it, we prized them in 2016. When Cameroon knew within 3 weeks they would make the Ambazonians force in Manu because we dislodged their colonial military, we rose up. When this tribalistic gang exposed rival, thought the Ambazonian forces are decimated, we rose up as one people. When they thought they would squander 2 million, money raised in DC, money raised in towns, and the revolution would crumble, they will go and sit in conferences and approve decentralization. The Ambazonian people have rose up and they are supporting the total takeover project. Ambazonian people have realized that they were a scam and they are running away from them. Ambazonian people have realized that these are not people that can entrust leadership in them. Ambazonian people have realized that these are people that you can trust money in them. I have faith in Ambazonian people that you cannot fool all of them all the time, never mind even one time. That even if they don't call you out, it's only a matter of time. They will pick on you. They come on screen every day crying for your funding. They have achieved nothing in their life. They've achieved nothing to make them. They have exposed fighters. They have taken ransom. They have made the population to tag every defense as Ambazonian boys. Whereas it is their scheme. They have come to say they will mobilize the population to go seek out AF so that they should be the only force to talk with the HD and Cameroon for decentralization. Again, the bad news is any Ambazonian, man or woman, child or father, approaching the ADM without authorization, any chief, whether in Ambazonia or in La Republique, trying to engineer our boys, we will hunt you down to the gates of hell. For those of you in the diaspora spewing hate, collaborating with the regime in order to murder our people. Traitors and their generations have never been spared in history. You will face the same fate. We came to this revolution in order to make sure that colonization of Ambazonia and genocide in Ambazonia ends with this generation, the never again generation. And we will make that Cameroon is defeated in Ambazonia, with or without your collaboration, without your collaboration. Americans are wiser. We know the strategy that we've put ahead, the total takeover strategy, is the roadmap to follow. And for those of you who believe on every Ambazonia to follow strategy, to follow leaders with honor and integrity, to follow leaders that can beg for you, follow leaders that have a vision. Because as I said, sheep cannot lead lions to victory. It is now that we call on everyone to go to the www.tto.net and give support so that we can move this revolution beyond Cameroon, infiltrators and spies. You have shown the resilience, you have shown the tenacity to always rise from the dead, because Cameroon and infiltrators thought with this to break your resolve. But the ground and the girls on the ground and those still wanting to join the ADF are showing tremendous strength, as we today in Mezam, as witnessed 3 days ago in Where do we go from here? The triad approach is in full motion in terms of mobilization and internationalization. We have started to respond to the COVID-19 by distributing 10,000 face masks, educating our population in the areas controlled by Ambazonia Defense. We thank the head of the humanitarian services of the Ambazonian Governing Council and her team, making sure that our women and children, boys and girls, fathers, have what it takes in order to fight the COVID-19 war, while at the same time the colonial regime. In terms of education, we are providing education through online tools. The community schools that we established have been closed because of COVID-19. But rest assured, the kids are still learning. We have collaborated in terms of community mobilization and internationalization with the Sisiku camp to make sure that our population on the ground, through the relaunch of SCBC, through the Ambazonian radio project, that they get the information and be de-intoxicated from the infodemic that this to spread. In terms of community mobilization, we have made our people, and we continue to make them, to be aware of what is needed, of the kind of leadership, of the strategies that are needed in order to win the objectives for which we fight. In service, we are collaborating with sister forces and any other national force, especially the counties, those that are not infiltrated. We are working together with them to make sure that we tilt the balance to our favor. As I said, on the ground, it is what the football, a draw match. Cameroon is unable to penetrate. We are unable to go any further for now. We are building capabilities. The strategies have been outlined, the total takeover strategy, which involves clearing some space to allow our internally displaced and some of our refugees to come back to some safe zones within Ambazonia. It allows for bold actions against a collapsing regime, a collapsing military, against administrators from the colonial regime that still try to administer by hiding in their own country. And we thank our boys for making it so hard, making the ground ungovernable so that they can only govern from outside of Ambazonia. In the total takeover, as the plans are being laid down, and the resources and the manpower being put in place, is going to allow Ambazonians for the first time to see what freedom looks like. Self-defense alone is not going to do the trick. That is why we applaud the Coalition for Dialogue and Negotiation, that wise men in Ambazonia, and they are abundant in the diaspora, have taken upon themselves to make that in their own way they contribute to the liberation of Ambazonia. They have come to realize that once they allow evil to take root, it will be difficult to uproot them. That is why the wise men, intellectuals, have come together, Coalition for Dialogue and Negotiation, in order to chart a diplomatic front. And we know that is just one aspect of it that is going to help Ambazonians go back to their homes. That is going to help the internally displaced to find comfort. That is going to show our brave fighters that their blood wasn't spilled in vain. In the total takeover plan or project in itself, it involves working with national partners, as we've been doing in the past, to make sure that no avenue of sabotage, no conspiracy has existed in 1961, leading up to our independence in 1961, that it doesn't take place. That's why we totally, because we understand the international system. We know how it works. We have met them. We met the foreign affairs of the Swiss and told them how they can strengthen the negotiation process, or the purported negotiation process, because we understood that it's not by coming on social media and shouting that you are taking Cameroon to court. It's not by coming on social media and banning people. It is strategy, it is manpower, it is leadership with integrity and honor that defeat Cameroon. Fellow Ambazonians, if the infiltrators to break our back, despite the fact that most of the losses that we've suffered on the ground is not from the enemy camp Cameroon, but from our own internal collaborators with Cameroon. Ambazonians, if you've not lost hope of the Ambazonian Defense Council and the Ambazonian Governing Council, despite all the attacks on its leadership and its structures and its systems, Ambazonians, if French Cameroon system has been unable to corrupt you, I have faith in the Ambazonian ingenuity, that through Ambazonian ingenuity, we will establish a system of governance that is democratic, that ensures respect for human rights, that promotes peace and security in the Gulf of Africa, a system that educates people to become an asset to their family and themselves, and not a liability to the Bible as Gideon, who put in place a society that is diverse, recognizes all tribes, who put in place an education system that will make our economy to depend not on the natural resources as the prime motivator of growth, but on its ingenuity, its creativity, and innovativeness, And that innovation has been shown through your internationalization, through your community mobilization, and through the efforts that you've employed in order to support the other two pillars of the triad approach. I thank you all, Ambazonians. It is for you to rise as well, both on the ground and in the diaspora, to chase this cabal and Chris Anu out of this revolution. And to any fighter on the ground and any civilian, if you are fighting or you purport to fight under this cabal, know that your days are numbered. We will find you and we will bring you to justice. Fellow Ambazonians, your light was lit. The responsibility is on you to keep that light lit. Have the strategy, take over strategy, which is not just in self-defense, but in community mobilization, through collaboration with other sister forces, through educating our forces and our brothers, sisters, mothers, and fathers on the ground. It is through diplomacy, by making sure that the international system doesn't dribble Ambazonia as they did in the early days of independence, but it's also to make sure that all mediators, collaborators, and good-for-nothing pastors are kicked out of this revolution. On that note, I have you faith. I salute our brave soldiers battling Cameroon on a daily basis. There is no ceasefire, and there's going to be no ceasefire until we get to Bongo Square. Thank you all, and have a lovely day. Bye-bye.